The Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, translated by Philip Yampolsky and read by Angus Cargill. Good friends, those in later generations who obtain my teaching will always see that my Dharma body is not apart from where they are. Good friends, take this doctrine of the sudden teaching, look at it and practice it together, fix your resolve on it, and receive and guard it. Because it is tantamount to serving the Buddha, if for all your lives you receive and guard it and do not retrogress, you will enter into the ranks of the sacred. Now, I should like to hand it on. But from the past, the Dharma has been handed down in silence, only when the great resolve has been made, and there has been no retrogression from enlightenment, Bodhi, then should it be passed on. When you meet people whose understanding is not the same as yours, and whose resolve is not determined, never recklessly demonstrate the teaching to them. If you do so, you will do them harm, and in any event it will be of no value whatsoever. If you happen to meet people who do not understand and who despise this teaching, for 100 kalpas, 10,000 kalpas, 1,000 lives, Buddhism will be extirpated. The Master said, "Good friends, listen. I will preach to you a verse of formlessness. It will cause the destruction of the crimes of you deluded people. It is also called the verse for destroying crimes. The verse says, 'The ignorant person practices seeking future happiness and does not practice the way,' and says that to practice seeking future happiness is the way. Though he hopes that almsgiving and offerings will bring boundless happiness, as before, in his mind the three karmas are created. If you wish to destroy your crimes by practicing seeking future happiness, even though in a future life you obtain this happiness, the crime will still be left. If you can in your mind cast aside the cause of your crimes, then each of you, within your own natures, will truly repent. If you awaken to the Mahayana and truly repent, evil being removed and good achieved, you will truly attain to crimelessness. If students of the way observe their own selves well, they will be the same as those already awakened. I am causing this sudden teaching to be transmitted, and one who aspires to learn it will become one with me. If in the future you wish to seek your original body, wash out the evil causes of the three poisons from within your minds. Work hard to practice the way. Do not be absent-minded. If you spend your time in vain, your whole life will soon be forfeited. If you encounter the teaching of the Mahayana sudden doctrine, join your palms in devotion and sincerity and strive earnestly to reach it." When the Master had finished preaching, the prefect Wei, the government officials, and the monks and laymen uttered words of praise. "What a boundless teaching! This we have never heard before." The prefect Wei bowed deeply and said, "Your exposition of the Dharma was certainly amazing. Right now I have some small doubts that I should like to ask you about, and hope that out of your great compassion you will resolve them for me." The Master said, "If you have doubts, then ask. There is no need to repeat yourself." The prefect asked, "Isn't the Master's Dharma the essentials of the teaching of the first patriarch, the Indian Bodhidharma?" The Master said, "Yes." The prefect said, "I have heard that, when Bodhidharma was converting Emperor Wu of Liang, the emperor asked Bodhidharma, 'I have spent my whole life up to now building temples, giving alms, and making offerings. have I gained merit or not? And that Bodhidharma answered, saying, No merit. Then the emperor was greatly disappointed and banished Bodhidharma across the border. I don't understand this story and beg of you to explain it. The Sixth Patriarch said, Indeed, he gained no merit. Do not doubt the words of Bodhidharma. The emperor was attached to a heterodox way and did not know the true Dharma. The prefect asked, Why did he have no merit? The master said, Building temples, giving alms, and making offerings are merely the practice of seeking after blessings. One cannot make merit with blessings. Merit is in the Dharmakaya, not in the field of blessings. In Dharma nature itself there is merit, Kong Te. Seeing into your own nature is Kong. Straightforward mind is Te. Inwardly see the Buddha nature. Outwardly practice reverence. If you make light of all men and do not cut off the ego, then you yourself will be without merit. If your own nature is false, the Dharma body is without merit. If in successive thoughts there is virtuous practice and there is straightforward mind, merit will not be held lightly, and practice will always be reverent. Your own practice with the body is Kung. Your own practice with the mind is Te. Merit is created from the mind. Blessings and merit are different. The Emperor Wu did not understand the true principle. Hence, the Patriarch was not in the wrong. The prefect bowed deeply and asked, I notice that some monks and laymen always invoke the Buddha Amitabha and desire to be reborn in the West. I beg of you to explain whether one can be born there or not, and thus resolve my doubts. The master said, Prefect, listen and I shall explain things for you. At Shravasti, the world-honored one preached of the Western land in order to convert people, and it is clearly stated in the sutra, the Western land is not far. It was only for the sake of people of inferior capacity that the Buddha spoke of farness. To speak of nearness is only for those of superior attainments. Although in man there are naturally two types, in the Dharma there is no inequality. In delusion and awakening there is a difference, as may be seen in slowness and fastness of understanding. The deluded person concentrates on Buddha and wishes to be born in the other land. The awakened person makes pure his own mind. Therefore the Buddha said, in accordance with the purity of the mind, the Buddha land is pure. Prefect, people of the East, China, just by making the mind pure, are without crime. People of the West, the pure land of the West, if their minds are not pure, are guilty of a crime. The deluded person wishes to be born in the East or West. For the enlightened person, any land is just the same. If only the mind has no impurity, the Western land is not far. If the mind gives rise to impurities, even though you invoke the Buddha and seek to be reborn in the West, it will be difficult to reach. If you eliminate the 10 evils, you will proceed 100,000 li. If you do away with the 8 improper practices, you will pass across 8,000 li. But if you practice straightforward mind, you will arrive there in an instant. Prefect, practice only the 10 virtues. Why should you seek rebirth in the Western land? If you do not cut off the 10 evils, what Buddha can ask you to come welcome you? If you awaken to the sudden Dharma of birthlessness, you will see the Western land in an instant. If you do not awaken to the sudden teaching of Mahayana, even if you concentrate on the Buddha and seek to be reborn, the road will be long. How can you hope to reach there? The Sixth Patriarch said, I will move the Western land in an instant and present it to you right before your eyes. Does the prefect wish to see it or not? The prefect bowed deeply. If I can see it here, why should I be reborn there? I ask you in your compassion to make the Western land appear for my sake. It would be wonderful. The Master said, there is no doubt that the Western land can be seen here in China. Now let us disperse. The assembly was amazed and did not know what to do. The Master said, you people assembled here, listen carefully. The physical body of man in this world is itself a city. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body are the gates to the city. Outside there are 5 gates. Inside there is the gate of consciousness. Mind is the ground. Self-nature is the king. If there is self-nature, there is a king. If self-nature departs, there is no king. If there is self-nature, the body and mind exist. If self-nature departs, the body and mind are destroyed. Since Buddha is made by your own nature, do not look for him outside your body. If you are deluded in your own nature, Buddha is then a sentient being. If you are awakened in your own nature, sentient beings are then Buddhas. Compassion is Avalokiteshvara. Joyful giving is Masa Samprapta. Capacity for purity is Shakyamuni. Straightforwardness is Maitreya. The false view of the self is Mount Sumeru. The perverted mind is the great sea, and the passions are the waves. The poisoned mind is an evil dragon. Troubles are fish and sea turtles. Delusions are supernatural demons. The 3 poisons are hell. Ignorance forms the realm of beasts, and the 10 virtues are heaven. If there is no false view of the self, then Mount Sumeru will fall of itself. If the perverted mind is cast aside, the ocean will dry up, and when the passions are gone, the waves will subside. If the passions and harm are done away with, then the dragons and fish will disappear. Let the Tathagata of enlightenment within your own mind ground release the luminosity of great wisdom, shine upon the 6 gates, and with its purity destroy the 6 heavens of the world of desire, Kamadhatu. If your own nature illuminates inwardly, the 3 poisons will be cast aside, and hell will at once be destroyed. If inside and outside are clear, this will be no different from the Western land. If you don't carry out this practice, how will you be able to reach there? On hearing this sermon, the praising voices of those who sat before him rose to heaven, and all the deluded people understood clearly. The prefect bowed deeply and said in praise, "Excellent, excellent. We all hope that the sentient beings of the Dharma world who hear this will at once gain enlightenment." The Master said, "Good friends, if you wish to practice, it is all right to do so as laymen. You don't have to be in a temple. If you are in a temple but do not practice, you are like the evil-minded people of the West. If you are a layman but do practice, you are practicing the good of the people of the East. Only, I beg of you, practice purity yourselves. This, then, is the Western land." The prefect asked, "Master, how should we practice as laymen? I wish you would instruct us." The Master said, "Good friends, I shall make a formless verse for you, monks and laymen. When all of you recite it and practice according to it, then you will always be in the same place as I am. The verse says, proficiency in preaching and proficiency in the mind are like the sun and empty space. Handing down this sudden teaching alone, enter into the world and destroy erroneous doctrines. Although in the teaching there is no sudden and gradual, in delusion and awakening there is slowness and speed. In studying the teaching of the sudden doctrine, ignorant persons cannot understand completely. Although explanations are made in 10,000 ways, if you combine them with the principle, they become one. Within the dark home of the passions, the sun of wisdom must at all times shine. Erroneous thoughts come because of the passions. When correct thoughts come, the passions are cast aside. Use neither the erroneous nor the correct, and with purity you will attain to complete nirvana. Although enlightenment, Bodhi, is originally pure, creating the mind that seeks it is then delusion. The pure nature exists in the midst of delusions. With correct thoughts alone, remove the three obstacles. If people in this world practice the way, there is nothing whatsoever to hinder them. If they always make clear the guilt within themselves, then they will accord with the way. All living things of themselves possess the way. If you part from the way and seek it elsewhere, seek it you may, but you will not find it, and in the end, indeed, you will be disappointed. If you aspire to attain the way, practice correctly. This is the way. If in yourselves you do not have the correct mind, you will be walking in darkness and will not see the way. If you are a person who truly practices the way, do not look at the ignorance of the world, for if you see the wrong of people in the world, being wrong yourself, you will be evil. The wrong in others is not your own crime. Your own wrong is of itself your crime. Only remove the wrong in your own mind. Crush the passions and destroy them. If you wish to convert an ignorant person, then you must have expedience. Do not allow him to have doubts. Then enlightenment, Bodhi, will appear. From the outset, the Dharma has been in the world. Being in the world, it transcends the world. Hence, do not seek the transcendental world outside by discarding the present world itself. Erroneous views are of this world. Correct views transcend this world. If you smash completely the erroneous and the correct, then the nature of enlightenment, Bodhi, will be revealed as it is. Just this is the sudden teaching. Another name for it is the Mahayana. Having been deluded throughout a multitude of kalpas, one gains awakening within an instant. The Master said, "Good friends, if all of you recite this verse and practice in accordance with it, even if you are 1,000 li away from me, you will always be in my presence. If you do not practice it, even if we are face to face, we will always be 1,000 li apart. Each of you yourselves must practice. The Dharma doesn't wait for you." Let us disperse for a while. I am going back to Mount Shaoqi. If any of you have great doubt, come to that mountain, and I shall resolve that doubt for you and show you the Buddha world as well. All the officials, monks, and laymen who were sitting together bowed low before the Master, and there was none who did not sigh, "Wonderful, great awakening. These are things we have never heard before. Who would have expected Lingnan to be so fortunate as to have had a Buddha born there?" The entire assembly dispersed. The master went to Mount Shaoqi, and for over 40 years converted the people in Shaozhou and Guangzhou. If one were to talk about the number of his disciples, to say several thousand people, both monks and laymen, would not do it justice. If one were to talk about the pivot of his teaching, it lies in the transmission of the Platform Sutra, and this serves as the authority. Unless a person has received the Platform Sutra, he has not received the sanction. The place, date, and the name of the recipient must be made known, and these are attached to it when it is transmitted. Someone who does not have the Platform Sutra and the sanction is not a disciple of the Southern School. Someone who has not yet obtained sanction, even though he preaches the doctrine of sudden enlightenment, does not know the basic teachings, and in the end will not be able to avoid disputes. Those who have the Dharma should practice it wholeheartedly, for disputations show a contentious mind and are a betrayal of the way. People in the world all say, in the south, Neng, in the north, Shou, but they do not know the basic reason. The Chan master Shou practiced as head priest of the Yuquan temple in Tanyang-shen in Qingnan-fu. The master Huineng lived at Mount Shaoqi, 35 li east of the capital of Shaozhou. The Dharma is one teaching, but people are from the north and south, so southern and northern schools have been established. What is meant by gradual and sudden? The Dharma itself is the same, but in seeing it there is a slow way and a fast way. Seen slowly, it is the gradual. Seen fast, it is the sudden teaching. Dharma is without sudden or gradual, but some people are keen and others dull, hence the names sudden and gradual. The teacher Shen Shu one day heard someone talking about the swiftness of Huineng's Dharma and his direct pointing at the way. Shou then called his disciple, the monk Qi Cheng, and said, "You're bright and have wide knowledge. Go for me to Mount Shaoqi, and when you get to Huineng's place, make obeisance to him and just listen. Don't tell him I've sent you, but just listen to the essentials of his teaching, memorize them, and come back and tell me. Then I'll be able to tell which of our understandings is the swifter. And at all costs come back quickly, or else I will be angry." Qi Cheng was delighted to carry out this mission, and after about half a month reached Mount Shaoqi. He saw the priest Huineng, made obeisance to him, and listened without saying from where he had come. Qi Cheng heard the Dharma and was at once enlightened and awakened to his original mind. Arising, he bowed low and said, "Master, I come from Yuquan Temple, but under my teacher Shu I have been unable to gain awakening. But now, on hearing your sermon, I have awakened to my original mind. I wish that, in your compassion, you would give me instruction." Huineng said, "If you come from that place, then you are probably a spy." Qi Cheng answered, "No, I'm not." The master said, "Why not?" Qi Cheng said, "When as yet you hadn't preached your sermon to me, I was a spy, but now that you have preached, I am not." The Sixth Patriarch said, "The very passions our enlightenment is also like this." The master said to Qi Cheng, "I hear that your teacher instructs people only by handing down precepts, meditation, and wisdom. What are the precepts, meditation, and wisdom that he teaches?" Qi Cheng answered, "The priest Shou explains them in this way. Not to commit the various evils is the precepts. To practice all the many good things is wisdom. To purify one's own mind is meditation. These he calls precepts, meditation, and wisdom, and this is the kind of explanation that he gives. What is your own view, Master? The Master Huineng answered, This explanation is wonderful, but my view is different. Chicheng asked, How does it differ? Huineng answered, There is slow seeing and swift seeing. Chicheng asked the Master to give his explanation of the precepts, wisdom, and meditation. The Master said, Listen to my explanation and you will know my view. The mind ground, not in error, is the precept of self-nature. The mind ground, undisturbed, is the meditation of self-nature. The mind ground, not ignorant, is the wisdom of self-nature. Master Huineng said, Your precepts, meditation, and wisdom are to encourage people of shallow capacities. Mine are for men of superior attainments. Because the awakening of self-nature is the pivot of my teaching, I don't even set up precepts, meditation, and wisdom. Chicheng said, Please explain what you mean by not set up. The Master said, Self-nature is without error, disturbance, and ignorance. Every thought puts forth the radiance of prajñā wisdom, and when one is always separated from the form of things, what is there that can be set up? Self-awakening to self-nature and sudden practice with sudden awakening, there is nothing gradual in them, so that nothing at all is set up. Chicheng bowed deeply and did not leave Mount Shaoqi. He became a disciple and never departed from the Master's side. There was another priest by the name of Fa Ta, who had been reciting the Lotus Sutra continuously for 7 years, but his mind was still deluded, and he did not know where the true Dharma lay. Going to Mount Shaoqi, he bowed and asked, I have doubts about the sutra, and because the Master's wisdom is great, I beg of him to resolve my doubts. The Master said, Fa Ta, you are very proficient in the Dharma, but your mind is not proficient. You may have no doubts insofar as the sutras are concerned, but your mind itself doubts. You are searching for the true Dharma with falsehood in your mind. If your own mind were correct and fixed, you would be a man who has taken the sutra to himself. I have never in my life known written words, but if you bring a copy of the Lotus Sutra and read it to me, upon hearing it, I will understand it at once. Fa Ta brought the Lotus Sutra and read it through to the Master. Hearing it, the Sixth Patriarchs understood the Buddha's meaning and then discoursed on the Lotus Sutra for the sake of Fa Ta. The Sixth Patriarch said, Fa Ta, the Lotus Sutra does not say anything more than is needed. Throughout all its 7 chuan, it gives parables and tales about causation. The Tathagata's preaching of the 3 vehicles was only because of the dullness of people in the world. The words of the sutra clearly state that there is only one vehicle of Buddhism, and that there is no other vehicle. The Master said, Fa Ta, listen to the one Buddha vehicle, and do not seek 2 vehicles, or your nature will be deluded. Where in the sutra do we find this one Buddha vehicle? Let me explain to you. The sutra says, the various Buddhas and the world-honored one appeared in this world because of the one great causal event. The above 16 characters are the true Dharma. How do you come to understand this Dharma? How do you practice this Dharma? Listen, and I shall explain to you. The mind has nothing to do with thinking, because its fundamental source is empty. To discard false views, this is the one great causal event. If within and without you are not deluded, then you are apart from duality. If on the outside you are deluded, you cling to form. If on the inside you are deluded, you cling to emptiness. If within form you are apart from, and within emptiness, you are separated from emptiness. Then within and without you are not deluded. If you awaken to this Dharma, in one instant of thought your mind will open and you will go forth in the world. What is it that the mind opens? It opens Buddha's wisdom, and the Buddha means enlightenment. Separately considered, there are 4 gates: the opening of the wisdom of enlightenment, the instruction of the wisdom of enlightenment, the awakening of the wisdom of enlightenment, and the entering into the wisdom of enlightenment. This is called opening, instructing, awakening, and entering. Entering from one place, this is the wisdom of enlightenment. And with this you see into your own nature and succeed in transcending the world. The Master said, "Fata, it is my constant wish that all the people in the world will always themselves open the wisdom of the Buddha in their own mind grounds. Do not cultivate the wisdom of sentient beings. The people of the world have errors in their minds, create evil with stupidity and delusion, and thus cultivate the wisdom of sentient beings. If people in the world are correct in their minds, they will give rise to wisdom and illuminate it, and open up for themselves the wisdom of the Buddha. Do not open up the wisdom of sentient beings. Open up the wisdom of the Buddha, and then transcend the world." The Master said, "Fata, this is the one vehicle Dharma of the Lotus Sutra." Later on in the sutra, the Buddha's teaching is divided into 3 vehicles in order to benefit the deluded. Depend only on the one Buddha vehicle. The Master said, "If you practice with the mind, you turn the lotus. If you do not practice with the mind, you are turned by the lotus. If your mind is correct, you will turn the lotus. If your mind is incorrect, you will be turned by the lotus. If the wisdom of the Buddha is opened, you will turn the lotus. If the wisdom of sentient beings is opened, you will be turned by the lotus." The Master said, "If you practice the Dharma with great effort, this then is turning the sutra." Fata, upon hearing this, at once gained great enlightenment and broke into tears. "Master," he said, "indeed up to now I have not turned the lotus, but for 7 years I have been turned by it. From now on I shall turn the lotus, and in consecutive thoughts practice the practice of the Buddha." The Master said, "The very practice of Buddha. This is Buddha." Among those in his audience at that time, there was none who was not enlightened. At one time, a monk named Chi-Chang came to Mount Sao-Chi and, making obeisance before Huineng, asked about the meaning of the Dharma of the 4 vehicles. Chi-Chang asked Huineng, "The Buddha spoke of 3 vehicles, but you speak of a supreme vehicle. I don't understand, and wish that you would instruct me." The Master Huineng said, "Look at your own body and mind, and do not cling to outer forms. From the outset there were no 4 vehicles, but the human mind itself has 4 grades. Therefore the Dharma has 4 vehicles. Seeing, hearing, reciting. This is the small vehicle. Awakening to the Dharma and understanding its principle. This is the middle vehicle. practicing according to the Dharma, this is the great vehicle. Passing through the 10,000 things completely, being fully equipped with the 10,000 practices, not separating from all things, but only from the characteristics of things, and in all actions obtaining nothing. This is the supreme vehicle. Vehicle means practice. It is nothing that can be discussed, but is something that you yourself must do, so don't ask me. There was another monk by the name of Shen Hui who was a native of Nanyang. He came to Mount Shaoqi, made obeisance, and asked, "Master, when you are sitting in meditation, do you see or not?" The master got up and hit Shen Hui 3 times. Then he asked, "Shen Hui, when I hit you, did it hurt or didn't it?" Shen Hui answered, "It hurt, and it also didn't hurt." The Sixth Patriarch said, "I see, and also do not see." Then Shen Hui again asked, "Master, why do you see and not see?" The master answered, "My seeing is always to see my own errors. That's why I call it seeing. My non-seeing is not to see the evils of people in the world. That's why I see and also do not see. What about your hurting and also not hurting?" Shen Hui said, "If it did not hurt, I would be the same as an insentient tree or rock. If it did hurt, I would be the same as a common person, and resentments would arise." The master said, "The seeing and non-seeing you asked about just now is dualistic. Hurting and not hurting are birth and destruction. You don't even see your own nature. How dare you come and toy with me?" Shen Hui bowed down and did not speak. The master said, "Your mind is deluded and you cannot see, so you go and ask a teacher to show you the way. You must awaken with your own mind and see for yourself, and you must practice with the Dharma. Because you yourself are deluded and you do not see your own mind, you come asking me whether I see or not. Even if I see for myself, I cannot take the place of your delusion. Even if you see for yourself, you cannot take the place of my delusion. Why don't you practice for yourself and then ask me whether I see or not?" Shen Hui bowed deeply and became a disciple. He did not leave Mount Shaoqi and always attended on the master. The master then called his disciples Fa Hai, Qi Cheng, Fa Ta, Qi Chang, Qi Tung, Qi Che, Qi Tao, Fa Chen, Fa Ju, and Shen Hui, and said, "You 10 disciples, come close. You are different from other people. After I die, each of you will become a teacher somewhere. I am explaining the Dharma to you so that the basic teaching will not become lost. I shall give you the teaching in the 3 categories and the 36 confrontations of activity. As things rise and sink, you must separate from dualism. When you explain all things, do not stand apart from nature and form. Should someone ask you about the Dharma, what you say should all be symmetrical, and you must draw parallels for everything. Since they originate each from the other, if in the end dualisms are all completely cast aside, there will be no place for them to exist. The teaching of the 3 categories is that of the aggregates, the realms of sense, and the entrances. There are 5 aggregates, 18 realms of sense, and 12 entrances. What are the 5 aggregates? They are form, reception, conception, functioning, and ideation. What are the 18 realms of sense? They are the 6 dusts, the 6 gates, and the 6 consciousnesses. What are the 12 entrances? Externally, they are the 6 dusts. Internally, they are the 6 gates. What are the six dusts? They are sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and idea. What are the six gates? They are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Dharma nature gives rise to the six consciousnesses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, as well as the six gates and the six dusts. All things are included in your own natures. This is known as the storehouse consciousness. Thinking, consciousness is turned, the six consciousnesses produced, and the six dusts are seen emerging from the six gates. The 3 sixes make 18. From the errors of your self-nature, the 18 errors arise. If your self-nature is correct, then the 18 correct things arise. If it contains evil activities, then you are a sentient being. If it contains good activities, then you are a Buddha. From what do activities stem? They stem from the confrontations that face your own nature. The confrontations of the natural phenomena of the external environment are 5: heaven and earth, the sun and the moon, darkness and light, yin and yang, and water and fire. There are 12 confrontations in language and the characteristics of things: active and material and inactive and non-material, with characteristics and without characteristics, within the flow of birth and death and without that flow, matter and emptiness, shunyata, motion and stillness, purity and uncleanliness, profane and sacred, monk and layman, old and young, large and small, long and short, and high and low. In the activities to which your self-nature gives rise, there are 19 confrontations. The incorrect and the correct, ignorance and wisdom, stupidity and knowledge, confusion and samadhi, following the precepts and not following them, straight and crooked, real and unreal, steep and level, passions and enlightenment, compassion and doing harm, joy and anger, giving and begrudging, progressing and retrogressing, birth and destruction, permanence and impermanence, the Dharmakaya and the physical body, the Nirmanakaya and the Sambhogakaya, substance and function, nature and characteristics, and sentience and insentience. In language and the characteristics of things, there are 12 confrontations. In the external environment, there are 5 confrontations of natural phenomena. And in the functions given rise to by your self-nature, there are 19 confrontations, making altogether 36 confrontations. If you can employ the law of the 36 confrontations, it will apply to all the sutras, and, leaving and entering, you will stand apart from dualism. Why is it that your self-nature gives rise to activities? When you speak to others about these 36 confrontations on the outside, while within form, separate from form, on the inside, while within emptiness, separate from emptiness. If you cling to emptiness, then you will only be increasing your ignorance. If you cling to form, you will only increase your false views, slander the Dharma, and be quick to say that one should not use written words. Once you say one should not use written words, then people should not speak, because speech itself is written words. Even if you explain emptiness from the standpoint of your own nature, this, in effect, becomes language. Since the original nature is not empty, you are deluded and deceive yourself just because you have cast aside speech. Darkness is not darkness by itself. Because there is light, there is darkness. that darkness is not darkness by itself is because light changes, becoming darkness, and with darkness light is revealed. They originate each from the other. The 36 confrontations are also like this. The Master said, "You 10 disciples, when later you transmit the Dharma, hand down the teaching of the one roll of the Platform Sutra. Then you will not lose the basic teaching. Those who do not receive the Platform Sutra do not have the essentials of my teaching. As of now, you have received them. Hand them down and spread them among later generations. If others are able to encounter the Platform Sutra, it will be as if they received the teaching personally from me." These 10 monks received the teaching, made copies of the Platform Sutra, handed them down, and spread them among later generations. Those who received them have without fail seen into their own true natures. The Master passed away on the 3rd day of the 8th month of the 2nd year of Shentian, August the 28th, 713. On the 8th day of the 7th month, he called his disciples together and bade them farewell. In the 1st year of Shentian, the Master had constructed a pagoda at the Guoten Temple in Xinzhou, and now in the 7th month of the 2nd year of Shentian, he was taking his leave. The Master said, "Come close. In the 8th month I intend to leave this world. If any of you have doubts, ask about them quickly, and I shall resolve them for you. I must bring your delusions to an end and make it possible for you to gain peace. After I have gone, there will be no one to teach you." Fa Hai and the other monks heard him to the end and wept tears of sorrow. Only Shun Hui was not impressed, nor did he weep. The Sixth Patriarch said, "Shun Hui, you are a young monk, yet you have attained the status of awakening in which good and not good are identical, and you are not moved by judgments of praise and blame. You others have not yet understood. What have you been practicing at this temple these several years? You're crying now, but who is there who's really worried that I don't know the place to which I'm going? If I didn't know where I was going, then I wouldn't be leaving you. You're crying just because you don't know where I'm going. If you knew where I was going, you wouldn't be crying. The nature itself is without birth and without destruction, without going and without coming. All of you, sit down. I shall give you a verse, the verse of the true, false, moving quiet. All of you recite it, and if you understand its meaning, you will be the same as I. If you practice with it, you will not lose the essence of the teaching." The assembly of monks bowed down and begged, "Master, leave us your verse. We shall receive and retain it with reverent hearts." The verse said, "Nowhere is there anything true. Don't try to see the true in any way. If you try to see the true, your seeing will be in no way true. If you yourself would gain the true, separate from the false, there the mind is true. If the mind itself does not separate from the false, there is no true. What place is there for it to be? Sentient beings can move. Non-sentient things are without motion. If you undertake the practices of non-motion, you will be identical with the non-motion of the non-sentient. If the true non-motion is observed, it is but non-motion postulated on motion. Non-motion is no more than no motion itself. Non-sentient beings contain no Buddha seed. Distinguishing well the forms of the various dharmas, remain firm within the first principle. If you awaken and come to this view, this then is the functioning of true reality. Let me tell all of you, students of the way, that you must exert your utmost efforts. Do not, in the teaching of the Mahayana, cling to the knowledge of birth and death. When in the future you encounter a person you are destined to meet, then discuss together the words of the Buddha. If he is really not such a person, then, with palms joined, have him strive for the good. From the outset, this teaching has never engaged in disputes. Disputations will betray the intention of the way. If you cling to delusions and argue about the teaching, your own natures will enter into the cycle of birth and death. Once the assembled monks heard this verse, they understood the Master's meaning. They did not dare to argue, and they knew that they must practice according to the Dharma. In unison, they all bowed deeply, knowing that the Master would not stay in the world forever. The head monk Fa Hai came forward and said, "Master, after you leave, who will inherit your robe and Dharma?" The Master said, "The Dharma has already been entrusted. That you may not ask. Some 20 years after I have died, evil dharmas will run rampant and becloud the essentials of my teaching. Then someone will come forward and, at the risk of his life, fix the correct and false in Buddhism and raise up the essentials of the teaching. This will be my true Dharma." The robe may not be handed down. In case you do not trust in me, I shall recite the verses of the preceding 5 patriarchs, composed when they transmitted the robe and the Dharma. If you depend on the meaning of the verse of the first patriarch, Bodhidharma, then there is no need to hand down the robe. Hear me as I recite them to you. The verses say, verse of the first patriarch, the priest Bodhidharma: I originally came to China to transmit the teaching and save deluded beings. One flower opens 5 petals, and the fruit ripens of itself. Verse of the second patriarch, the priest Huiko: Because originally there is earth, from this earth seeds bring forth flowers. If from the outset there were no earth, from where would the flowers grow? Verse of the third patriarch, the priest Seng Tsan: Although flower seeds rely upon the earth, it is on the earth that seeds produce flowers. If flower seeds had no nature of growth, on the earth nothing would be produced. Verse of the fourth patriarch, the priest Tao Xin: Flower seeds have the nature of growth. From the earth seeds produce flowers. If former causality is not harmonized, nothing at all will sprout.